Hi, this is Gary. You're watching a tutorial on how to play Risk. This one covers strategies and concepts for multiplayers, typically anywhere from 4 to 6 players. Let's go ahead and get started here. To start off, let's take a look at the big picture. Now, in a multiplayer game, anywhere from 4 to 6 players, I'm going to show 6 players in this example. It is a little bit more of a crapshoot in terms of improving your chances to win. You can improve your chances to win, but if you're playing pretty good, your percentages might be, for 6 players, might be like 33% or 1 for 3 or something like that, because you have to have a lot of things go right, and there's a lot of different factors, or somebody could go into alliances and stuff like that that make it a little more challenging in 6-player game. But I'm going to try to show the best possible strategies here. Our first component of the big picture is armies, and in a multiplayer game we want to try to protect our armies as much as possible. If you look at the bottom right there, I'm going to list the probability of winning if we're attacking with anywhere from 2 to 4 dice or more dice. The green represent favorable situations for the attacker, while the red represent unfavorable situations for the attacker. Now, this first example is when the defender has 1 dice. As you can see, if you have 4 dice against 1, you have a 66% chance of winning. So those are high probability areas to attack that you might want to look at. The next component of the probabilities of winning is the 2 dice, and you can see I have it highlighted in the stoplight system, the red, yellow, green. Green is the good, or the advantages for having 4 more armies to attack. Yellow is a little bit of a disadvantage, and red is a huge disadvantage. You're almost a 3-to-1 dog there, 75-25. Now, all this data here I got off from Wikipedia, but I believe it's available on other websites. And the key thing that you want to take away here is that you want to try to protect your armies and keep yourself in the game, but you must at least conquer 1 territory per turn, otherwise you don't get a card. The next component of the big picture is territories. As you can see from the chart here, we each start out with 7 territories in a 6-player game, and you need more than 12 reinforcements to start getting like 4 armies or more, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which means it's really difficult in a multiplayer game to conquer and hold on to 12 plus territories, because the other 5 players get 5 consecutive or 5 different turns. There's a lot of ways that can go bad. So what you want to do is conquer 1 or 2 territories and spread your troops out so that you can't be destroyed by one opponent right away. The next component of the big picture is known as cards. Now, cards, you get a bonus for handing in a set of cards. Sometimes you can get 3, sometimes you get 4, but it goes up as you go on. Now, for each territory you hold on the card, you get a miscellaneous bonus of 2. As you can see by the chart right here on the bottom, the amount of cards, or the value of the cards, goes up as time goes on. Now, a good strategy early on is to try to spread your forces out so that you're not a takeover target by any specific opponent, where they'd have to go through somebody else to get to you. Another good strategy is to spread your forces out so that when one of your opponents gets really weak, they get down to like 5, 10 armies, and they have 3 or 4 cards. It makes it easy for you to defeat them and use their cards to your advantage. Another component of the big picture is known as continents. Now, I've got the continents listed below here in terms of how many bonus armies you get and how many borders you have to defend. The one thing I would point out with continents is that they are much more difficult to defend in a multiplayer game. That's because you have 5 different players after you, taking turns, and each one of them has a potential shot to go after your continent. Well, maybe not each one of them, but 2 or 3 of them legitimately have a shot at knocking you out. Now, the best continent in terms of value is Australia, and it gets you 2 per turn, but there's only 1 border to defend, which makes it nicer. Another continent you could possibly go for later in the game if you were to stake out troops is North America. It only has 3 borders. If you defend it, you get a nice army bonus, but it's a little bit tougher to defend. Australia is something to go for, but you don't typically want to go all out for continents unless you have a really good chance of getting it, number 1, and a really good chance of being able to defend it while your opponents are moving, number 2, because you don't want to make yourself a target to get taken over for cards and stuff like that. Now, our last component of the big picture in a multiplayer game is reinforcements. Obviously, if you see from this chart here, we start out with a very low number of reinforcements. Now we want to try to maximize these if we think we can hold the territory over the next 3 to 5 turns. If we can't, we don't want to risk a lot of armies to improve our reinforcements. Another possibility is thing you might want to look at is if an opponent has a continent and nobody else is going to attack them before they started their turn, and you're bordered right by them, it might be worthwhile to launch an attack on their continent because it would lower your opponent's reinforcement. But generally, in a 6-player game, your goal, at least till you get down to 3 or 4 players, is to try to survive and be in position to take advantage of opponents that overextend themselves and take their cards from them, and then use those cards for reinforcement as the cards go up in value the further we go on the game. This concludes our tutorial for multiplayer risk strategy. Hopefully this will help you out a little bit. Thank you for watching.